Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Stories of From Surviving to Thriving, stories of real people overcoming real adversity. Today we have on our call Holly Sully, who is going to be sharing her story of adversity, and I'd like to start by saying thank you, Holly, for being here. Tell the audience a bit about you. Who is Holly?
Well, thank you for having me. Well, I want to start with all of a sudden I want to start with all of those things like I'm a mum, but that's not really who I am. That's just one of my labels, many. I'm someone who has been through a crap load of stuff and come out the other side and gone, wow, how did I? But at the other end of the spectrum, I'm someone who very much likes to share what I've learned with others, and what lights me up and what makes me tick is wanting to share with others how I got to where I am. Like, I know my journey hasn't been perfect and I'm not like an expert at anything really.
We're an expert in what we've gone through though, aren't we? So.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, if I can make somebody else's road that little bit easier, then I feel like I'm contributing something to the world.
Awesome.
And that's what makes me feel good.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of this video interview series as well, is I really want to share this video interview series with people who are stuck right now, who have maybe lost the hope, and these are stories that will help inspire that hope in people again, that, if we've gone through all this stuff and we've overcome it, or maybe we're still coming out of it, and that's fine, but it's all about progress, not perfection. And if we can share those stories with people, then we can inspire a bit of hope that you'll get there too.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So let's talk about some of the challenges that you've faced in your life then, Holly. What's shaped you into the person that you are today?
Well, there's a fair few. Like, I'm someone who had a really great childhood and never had any problems there. In fact, if anything, I was probably just like a little bit too spoiled. But life completely and utterly changed when I became an adult, and all of a sudden there was like bills to pay, and there was things to take care of, and then all of a sudden I had a daughter, and then and kind of life just carries on, and you're kind of left going, oh well, like, how did I get here?
There's a picture that goes around, a meme on Facebook that I've seen. I'm sure I've shared it multiple times, where it's a picture of a French bulldog laying asleep on its tummy, like exhausted, saying, please don't make me adult today. I don't want to adult. And as an adult, you definitely have those days, don't you?
Oh, I had a moment like that just last week, and I actually put up a post and I said, I don't want to adult today. Send reinforcements or a replacement. I'm done.
And lots of wine.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, and like trying to rush and get the kids off to school, and I was just like, I'm done. That's it. No more. I don't want to do it today. Most of my friends just laughed, and the other ones went, okay, like, come out and have lunch with me and let's talk. And I was like,
yeah.
But, you get kind of stuck in this cycle, and you keep repeating it over and over again. And one of the biggest ones for me was with money. We would just constantly, over and over again, get ourselves stuck into this rut of being in debt, and then living from paycheck to paycheck, and like selling stuff to make ends meet and put food on the table and pay the bills. And we just seem to have absolutely no skills in that area to actually deal with money in a responsible adult way. And it just seemed like every time we got ahead, we were falling behind again. And that, for me, was probably one of my biggest defining struggles. And the other one is the one that ended me up here as a single mum with 3 kids, just now moving into my own house, having my own space, and having to adult all by myself. And, I went through a really nasty end to a relationship. It was really traumatic, not just for me, but for my kids. And it's taught me a lot about who I am as a person, and what I can put up with, and what I will and will not tolerate in my life anymore.
Yeah. Okay. And so has that just been the last few years? Would you say that the money and the relationship stuff has been going on?
Oh, the money stuff's probably been going on a long time, like on and off throughout my whole life. I've now in the last few years really got a handle on all of that, and that's what I love to teach is, you know, how you can get out of that. But the relationship that was in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. So quite fresh, yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, like, money's a big deal for a lot of people. The majority of people probably, you know, would recognise living paycheck to paycheck. Talk to me about some of the feelings that you felt in your body, like physically, what was going on for you when times were really tough, when you were not having a clue where you were going to pay that bill.
Thinking about it, you see my shoulders going up, like my head sinking, and you can feel that weight. Like it feels like a full-on physical weight just pushing you down. And like you don't think about it until kind of years later, but you know, you would get money in and then you would like be sitting there like this going, okay, now I've got to pay that, now I've got to pay this, and then you'd look at it and you'd dwindle, and then you'd just be like, there's nothing left, like what do I do now? And you just somehow think, okay, well, I've just got to figure it out, I've just got to last until the next payday, and then the next payday comes and the cycle continues, and then you just think, oh, I've got to last until the next one. But you don't realize that you're actually stressing yourself out, and not just you internally, but your body. Like you put yourself through an enormous amount of stress. And, you know, I ended up getting really sick, like really bad sinus infections, and like really whenever one of my kids came home sick, I was generally the last one to get it, and I got it worse than anybody else. And it was simply because of all of that stress. I was carrying around like a weight on my shoulders, and my ex always says, oh, like you could never tell. And I was like, yeah, because I was living it up here like over and over and over again. And a lot of people
do that. In your head, doesn't it? Yeah.
And you sit there and you're thinking over everything, and you're going to sleep at night and you're thinking over every little thing, like, oh, if I spend $10 on this means I don't have the money to pay for that. Or you know, if I go over by $5 on the food budget, well then what do I do then? Because I've budgeted it down to the last exact cent. And
really impacts your enjoyment of life, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. And we spent years saying no to everything. Every time we got asked out, it was no, I'm sorry, we can't go. No, I'm sorry, I can't afford that. Oh no, look, we've actually really got something on when we didn't. And you carry around a lot of guilt.
And shame. I find that shame is attached to money stuff a lot. Yeah,
shame is huge. And you carry it around and you're like, oh, you know, I can't tell anyone. It's like your dirty little secret.
Yeah. And you have no idea how many other people have the same secret.
No, you're all walking around.
Their best sides on Facebook, don't they? So.
Oh, you're all walking around acting like everything's fine, and yet it's not. And then when you actually open up and talk to people about it, they're like, oh my God, I didn't know that was going on. Why didn't you tell me? And you're like, well, I felt ashamed of myself. Like I'm 20 something or 30 something years old. Why the hell have I not figured this out already? Like, surely everybody's got their crap together and I'm the only one that doesn't.
And the thing that frustrates me really about money stuff is that this stuff really needs to be taught in schools. Kids really need to be educated way past just the numbers and math stuff, just really actually budgeting. And
I'm the same. I feel exactly the same about it. There's not enough emphasis put on it, learning life skills at school. You know, sure, it's great to go and learn, like my daughter's now in high school and she's learning sewing and all of that kind of stuff through home ec and cooking, you know, but it's not going to occur to her that she's going to have to go and include all of those supplies in a budget week to week when she gets older. And then of course she's going to get older and go, but hang on, I just thought money would be there, like it'd just show up, right? Like, no, it's not how it works, babe.
So how did you get yourself out of that then?
Lots and lots of learning, really. But the biggest thing when it comes to that is facing it. And it's like anything, you've got to face it. You've got to look it in the eye and you've got to go, okay, well, I've got myself into this situation. What do I do now? And until you face it, you can't deal with it, because then you're constantly pushing it under the rug and you're going like, oh, no, like, I don't want to look at my money. I don't want to look at my numbers. I don't want to know how much debt I'm in. I don't want to have to figure out how to get out of it. It'd be so much easier if somebody else just came along and went, oh, well, look, here's all your bills and here's how much money you make.
Yeah.
Here, look, this is what I want you to do with it every week, and then you'll be fine. But it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, yeah.
We want to avoid it, and until you actually grow a pair, basically, and face it, you're never going to get anywhere.
A lot of people are very much avoidant of their money stuff, aren't they? And won't even open the bills when they come, because they think, what's the point? I know it's a bill and I don't have the money to pay it.
Yeah.
That's just digging a deeper hole, isn't it? And credit cards are so easy to come by, and loans are so easy to get, and there's so many loan sharks out there. It's so easy to get yourself into a hole, and it's a really scary place to be in. What was your darkest moment during that time?
I think financially the worst one was when the power bill got to like over $4,000 and they cut it off. Wow. And we spent 2.5 weeks without power.
Isn't it amazing that they can let it get to $4,000 before they cut you off?
Yeah, and that was the thing that amazed me. And I'd be ringing and be like, oh my God, like I don't know what to do, and like I can't figure out why the house is using so much power and what's going on. And it's just like you feel like you're helpless, but you feel so ashamed of yourself, and you feel guilty, and you feel like you're the biggest loser on the planet because you got yourself into this situation. And all that's running in the back of your mind is, I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I went from there to where I am now. Mm. And that was like the huge end zone for me. And I just went, like 2.5 weeks later, the only reason we got our power put back on is because my dad bailed us out. And I just went, that's it, I'm done.
Shame as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having to go to someone that you love and deeply admire and look up to and always have your whole life and say, look, I'm in trouble and I don't know how to get out of it. Is there any way you can help me? Is not just humbling but shameful. Like you really do. You feel like the biggest loser on the planet. You think, oh my God, like I'm the only one that's been in this situation. How on earth did I get here? Where did I go wrong? When did I become such an idiot? And you just start piling on yourself all of this negative emotion from the inside out. And then you start to feel like you'll never amount to anything. It adds up to, I'm not worthy to having anything in my life, and I'll never amount to anything at all ever. But that was the moment for me. I just went, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to get myself into this situation again, where on the day of my son's birthday, we're waking up with no power, like clothes I've had to hand wash and that are still not dry in the middle of winter. And I have no way to store food, like in a fridge, and I've got, no way to buy this, no way to do that. And I remember like waking up that morning and going to give my son his birthday presents that I couldn't even really afford, but I didn't want him to feel like he was missing out on anything. And I just remember feeling like the worst parent in the world. Like, how could I put my kid in this situation where he wakes up on his birthday, and while he's got a present and it's like probably one of the cheapest birthday presents he's ever had, I've put him in a position where he can't have a hot shower in the morning or a nice bath at night. And the shame just sort of carries over, and then you become like this festering ball of unhappiness.
Yeah.
And you start to lash out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was it for me. I was done.
Because money is part of every day, isn't it? It's not like another issue in your life that you can just go, I'll deal with that later. Money impacts your everyday.
And not just your everyday, but everything. There's not a single area of your life that money doesn't touch. It touches everything from your lifestyle choices, and it touches on your relationships, and it touches on your business, and it touches on everything you go through.
How did it affect your relationship?
Very negatively. We spent a lot of time arguing over money, and he felt very much that he had the right to spend money on himself because he was the one that was going out and I felt like, yeah, okay, that's fair, you do, but there has to be a boundary there, and maybe we need to set a budget. And we just came at it from completely different angles and completely different money styles, and balancing those two together was really something that took a huge toll on our relationship, and I would say definitely contributed to the end of it. Yeah. Because money's that thing that every couple fights about.
Yeah. There was a stat I heard, I can't remember where I heard it now, but it was I can't remember what the percentage of couples in America it was that broke up, got divorced because of money problems. But the key thing that stuck in my head was that if they had an extra $200 a week, which is really in the grand scheme of things not a huge amount of extra money, but that would have saved them from getting divorced.
Yeah.
Which is really sad.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people don't really think about is the fact that it's not necessarily how much money you make. Like, you could make $500,000, $600,000, $1,500 a week, but if it doesn't matter, if you've got nothing left at the end of that, it's not about how much money you're making. It's then about what you're doing with it.
Yeah. And when you're living beyond your means or with it.
Yeah. And not just like what you're doing with it, but why you're doing the things that you are with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people spend money on stuff that they don't need to negatively cope, like booze, drugs, frivolous spending on stuff that.
Yeah, I absolutely did. I went through this phase where I was really resentful and really unhappy. And I would randomly go out to the shop and just buy things. And like, they weren't things I wanted. They were not things I needed. But it filled an emotional gap. So like, I remember going down to Kmart one day and buying this $10 cushion. And I didn't want a cushion for my couch, but I came home with one because it was on sale and it was so pretty. And it was like, and it didn't serve a need or a purpose in my house. It served a need emotionally within me to make me feel like I was worthy and I was deserving of something, because I was pretty much refusing myself everything else. Like, I wouldn't go to the shop and buy anything for myself because then I felt like my kids were missing out or my partner was missing out, and I didn't want to feel like I was the emotional and monetary burden of the family. Like, we could afford everybody else's stuff, but we couldn't afford mine.
Yeah.
And it was amazing when I sat back and really looked at that, and I realized that the only one like making that pattern was me.
Yeah. And I do find as well that women tend to be the ones that will put themselves last, not just with money, but with lots of different things. And I think when it comes to money problems, we spend the money on ourselves last and make sure that everyone else is sorted. So you talk about how you overcame in terms of learning, lots of learning. What kind of learning are you talking about?
Well, I do a lot of law of attraction work, so I had to really learn how to notice my negative money patterns, notice what sabotaged me financially, and then learn to do something about it. And I had to, it's hard. You don't want to face bad things. You really don't. But at some point, you have to look yourself in the mirror and realize you don't like who you are anymore. And when you get to that point, it's kind of like whoa, like, hang on, wait, this is weird. Because when I was younger, I never had a problem looking myself in the mirror, and I never had a problem with any of the things I did and any of the things I spent money on. And all of a sudden I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, who the hell are you? Like, I don't like you, go away. And so I would avoid looking at myself in the mirror because then I thought it would go away.
Yeah. So in terms of our audience, like, I like to share actually practical stuff. I found through a lot of my learning, especially in the law of attraction, you read, well, you've got to explore your limiting beliefs and you've got to explore where you're sabotaging yourself. And I thought, that's all great, but a lot of books don't actually tell you, well, how do you do that in practical terms. So for anyone who's watching, who's going through a similar thing right now, can you share some strategies for them or some tips on what you did, and what they can possibly do to overcome their money blocks, their money sabotage, move forward with their debt?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the best thing you can do is look at, and I know like every money expert says this, but look at what you're actually spending money on already, and then take it one step further. So if you want to sit down and track your money for a day or a week or whatever and go, okay, well, I had this much money to start with, and then I spent this on this, and I spent this on this. And then take it one step further and look at why you actually spent your money on that. Don't just accept that at face value and be like, oh yeah, okay, well, now my money's gone.
Yeah.
Question everything. You don't have to spend $5 on a coffee just because that's what you've always done. And you don't have to spend $50 on your internet bill just because that's the way you like to do things. Question it. Really look at it and say, okay, well, I did this. Why did I do that? Why did I feel the need to go out and buy a $10 cushion I don't really want?
Yeah.
But there was a reason I did. So what was that reason?
Yeah.
And then really start to look at, okay, well, what's important to you? And what do you value? Because I found that the biggest shift for me came when I decided that, you know, the things I was spending money on weren't actually valuable to me. They didn't make me feel better. They just covered up an emotional hole. And when you actually look at it and you go, okay, well, like, what's important to me? Well, my top values personally are family. So spending money on my family feels good to me. But so going out, and even if it's just buying my kids an ice cream once every couple of weeks and spending an hour at the park, well, that feels fun. So I enjoy it. So I like doing it. So that aligns with who I am from the inside out.
Mm.
And when you can get to that point, that's when things will start to really shift. Don't just leave it at, oh, okay, well, I've looked at my expenses and now I'm good. Really look at, well, okay, well, why did I feel the need to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how else did you fill that emotional hole that you were filling with buying a $10 cushion from Kmart every now and again? were there, apart from kind of doing fun things with your family, was there another way that you tried to fill that void?
Yeah. Start off just spending like $5 on yourself. Because when you fill your own well, you're actually happier. And when you're happier, it's a flow-on effect.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed that when I'm happy and I'm feeling fulfilled, well, wow, look what happens. My kids are happy and they feel fulfilled. Yeah. And they feel loved and they feel wanted and they feel like they're important. So take that time and figure out that one thing you avoid. And for me, it was spending money on myself because I felt guilty, like, you know, taking that away from my family. So spending that money on me. And I started out small. I was like, oh, I'll just take myself for a coffee, and it cost me $5. And I went once a week, like clockwork, on a day where whether I had my youngest with me or not. And I would just go down to the shops and I'd buy myself a coffee and I would sit there and I would just watch people go by and just take time out. And then eventually it started to move up more, and so I'd start to spend like $10 on myself, and maybe it would be a new journal, or maybe it would be a new top, or, you know, something that made me feel like I was important. And give it to yourself, because you owe it to yourself to make yourself feel fulfilled before you can send that out into the world.
And I think a really important part of that is allowing yourself the receiving.
Yeah.
Like, I deserve to receive as well, because when we're stuck in money troubles, we're quite often blocked from receiving.
Yeah.
So when we allow ourselves that receiving and make it clear to the universe that, okay, I'm opening up to this now, then the money starts flowing more as well. So what kind of law of attraction tools did you use to help yourself through that period as well?
Trying to think of specific ones now. There was this exercise that always really stuck out in my mind, and it was called NICE. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to remember the whole thing, but it was notice. So like, notice when you're going off track, and then intervene with those thoughts, change those thoughts, and I can't remember what E is now. But, you know, the whole idea was to walk yourself through a 4-step process of noticing, all right, you're walking through the shopping centre and you've seen this top you really like, and all of a sudden you've gone, oh, I'll never be able to afford that. Okay, I'm just never going to have that much money.
Yeah. Which is just playing out the same money thoughts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just repeating the same cycle. So if you can notice it and then you can intervene and go, hang on, wait, no, that's not accurate. I'm changing how I want things to be. So you start to decide, well, okay, maybe I can't afford it yet, but I'm open to receiving that money, or I'm open to receiving that top as a gift, or I'm open to however it shows up.
Yeah.
And then
and we often just can never guess how it's going to show up, can we?
No. And then
ways.
Yeah, and then E is execute. So execute the new thought. So start to live into that space of, okay, well, I don't have the money right now, but what would it look like if I did? And I started to change my language around money. So instead of saying, oh my God, I can't afford that, I would say, well, I don't have that money right now, but I'm working on a way to get it.
How can I afford that?
Yeah. And really start to shift the way you talk about it, because you're not just talking about it to you. Like if you've got kids, you're teaching them how to interact with money. You're teaching them how to think with money, and you're teaching them, you know, what they can achieve. And I had this one moment, I think it was about 6 months ago, and I was at the shops and there was a mum walking down the aisle with her son, and he's like, oh, I really want that toy. And she went, you think I'm made of money, do you? Like, if you want something, you're going to have to work hard for it, and you're going to have to save your money, because that's how I get everything I want. And I wanted to cry. Like, for this poor kid, I was like, oh, I just want to cry. Yeah. And that was such a weird moment for me, because I had been that mum, that went, no, you can't have that because I don't have the money for it.
Yeah. That's where that resentment bubbles up, doesn't it? Because we're not investing in ourselves.
Yeah, and I just wanted, like, I really wanted to, like, take this poor kid in my arms and give him a hug and say, it's okay. Like, you'll be fine if you don't have the toy.
You might see what kind of money story he'll play out later on.
Yeah, but I thought, you know, you're really, what are you teaching your kids? You're teaching your kids that you're limited by your paycheck. You're teaching your kids that anything you want in life, you have to slave away and you have to pay your dues, and you won't get things until you're like 50 because you haven't worked hard enough yet. And you're not there, and you haven't got it, and so you haven't earned it, and you don't deserve it yet.
Yeah. It can't just drop out of the sky, can it? And that's a really common limiting belief, is you've got to work really, really, really hard for your money, and that's definitely a belief that I grew up with from what I saw around me. And having quit my job to do my business full time, which I love, it's not hard work. I work hard, but that's different to it being really hard work. And so I battled against that as a belief for a really long time. It's a
completely different space to play in. And I know I have that same issue. Like, I grew up with the same kind of thing. You've got to work hard to get anywhere. You can't just go out and do this. You've got to work hard for it. You've got to put one foot in front of the other, and you've got to run the steps and run the course. And you're not good enough to have it until you're at the end, and you've like slaved and toiled, and blood, sweat, and tears are poured out of you.
Yeah.
And so now I really, like, I spend time every day journaling, and part of my journaling process is to write out positive affirmations and really start to feel into them. And so I write out like every day, making money is easy, and I make more and more money easily every day because I choose to, and because I can, and because I'm open to it, and I deserve it. And, you know, and it takes time. It's not just like you can sit down and write it once and it's like done.
No, it's repetition, isn't it, with that kind of stuff? Yeah. And if you're not quite there yet, because sometimes writing things like making money is easy might feel really, really triggering to someone who it's really not easy to come by right now. So then it's better to step into a space of, I don't know how things will work out, but I know that they will. I'm always supported, and I don't need to figure it out. It's all good. I don't need to figure it out right now. I am where I need to be in this moment. I just need to keep going, and, you know, so soothing yourself.
Absolutely. Step it up. If you want to go from like, I can't afford that, to I can afford anything I want, well, step it up to I'm working on affording what I want.
Yeah. Which is more believable to them.
Yeah. You're in that middle ground of like, not just I've gone from I can't afford it to I can. but you're stepping yourself up to that, okay, well, I'm working on it. I'm in the process of believing that I can have what I want. I'm in the process of believing that money is easy to make. And I'm in the process of believing that I am great at managing money. And that's a big one for a lot of people, because especially people who've been through lots of debt and living paycheck to paycheck, you start to doubt yourself and you think, oh, I can't manage money. What do I know about managing money? Yeah. And it's not until you start to take those steps that you'll really start to realize that, wow, you actually really are good at it. And maybe you had to learn that. Maybe that's something that you needed to learn throughout your journey in life, and that's fine.
Yeah. So what have you learned about yourself and about life and the world from this period in your life where you were struggling?
I've learned that anything is possible, and I know that sounds so cliche, but anything really is possible. I struggled when I separated from my partner and I moved out, and I was living with my mum, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be living with my mum forever, and what am I going to do? And then I just sat myself down one day and I went, snap out of it. If you want a house, you can't sit around whinging and whining about it. Do something. Put yourself out there, ask for what you want, expect to receive it, be open to the possibilities, because you just never know.
Yeah. And you never know how, the different ways it can come. It might be a conversation with someone. It might be that you see an advert on the telly or an article in the paper, or, a big flashing neon sign in front of you. It could come in any way, or just inspiration that comes to you about someone to call or something to do.
Yeah, well, I went through all of the house ads, and I was and there was only one that I wanted to look at, and so I kind of came along and I had a look, and I was like, oh, I'm usually a really gut instinct kind of person, but I had been clouding myself, so I kind of didn't trust my gut instinct at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, well, maybe I'll put in an application and just kind of see what happens. And I put in the application and I got accepted the next day, and I was kind of like, whoa, hang on, wait, are you serious? Are you sure? Have you double checked this? Are you certain? And I went in to sign the paperwork, and she said to me, it's funny, the house has been on the market with us for 3 weeks, and before that it was on the market with another group for 3 months. Oh. She said the funny thing was, it was the owner's birthday yesterday, and they'd really been hoping to have someone in by now. And I looked at her and I went, it was my birthday yesterday too.
Oh, that's a bit freaky deaky, isn't it?
I got the chills. Even talking about it now, I'm just getting the chills. I was like,
oh.
And she went, okay then, that confirms it. I must have been having to wait for you. And I went,
yeah,
let's do this.
Yeah. So had they reduced the rent because it had been on the market for so long?
I actually asked to go down a little bit so that it fit in with my budget and my vision and what I was looking at.
Yeah. And
I got pretty much accepted, no questions asked. It was
awesome.
And I was just like, oh, okay. And then we moved in, and the next day the kids started school.
So it's been a bit of a full-on time for you at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. But
how does it feel to be in your own space now?
Amazing. I wake up every morning, and there's a sense of calm within our house now. Before, due to issues that my ex had, it was very all over the place. It was not a calm, happy space to be in. And now, you wake up in the morning and it's all kind of just calm, and we get out of bed and we kind of potter around until we wake up a bit, and then we, get started with our morning routine, and come home and I can do whatever I want, and I'm kind of this is my life now. Awesome. This feels so weird.
Awesome. Yeah.
But now we've been here about a month, and so we've settled in, and we're starting to really find our stride and our routine, and now it's yeah, this is my life now. This is awesome. Why didn't I do this before?
Awesome. So if you could go back, would you change anything?
I think there are times, specific times that you think of where you think, oh, if I just hadn't said that thing, or if I hadn't done that thing, you know, I'd kind of go back and make it different. But in the overall grand scheme of things, no, I wouldn't, because those things actually taught me so much. You know, I've learned a lot from those situations. I've learned a lot about me. I've learned a lot about what I will and won't tolerate in life. I've learned about my boundaries. And so in the overall, no, I wouldn't, because it's taught me to be who I am now.
Yeah.
And it's helped me to grow into who I am now.
And you talk about teaching others about, you know, the stuff that you've learned. So in what way do you do that?
Well, I tend to reach out every day on my Facebook page and write a post about, you know, something I've been through or something that's come up for me. And like yesterday's post was a whole bunch of what I termed bullshit. So I was pretty much facing crap that I had been telling myself in the last couple of weeks about, you know, what I can have, what I can't have. And I kind of just went, like, why are you buying this? Like, who said you have to? And so I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe that's a good post. Just write it and see what happens. And a lot of it for me is just putting out my thoughts and my feelings. And, you know, I'm only kind of just now getting to a point where I'm comfortable sharing situations that I've been through, because for a while there, they were still a bit too raw and emotional.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, like, let's just tell the people, because I've been there, I've experienced it, I know what it's like to live through that, and I know how terrifying it is and how ashamed of yourself you can feel, and I don't want others to feel that way.
Yeah.
You know,
so if you while you were going through stuff, if you'd seen someone like yourself putting posts up like that, how would that have made a difference to how you felt at the time?
I think I would have just known that I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big thing, especially for women. Like, you know, we connect on all sorts of levels, but our biggest connection for women is with our, you know, with our kids. And so, you know, we'll connect through our kids at school, and we'll connect through our kids at sporting clubs, and, you know, all of that kind of thing. But when nobody really talks about money, and so you might be living in the biggest struggle of your life, like maybe your partner just lost his job, or like I've got a friend whose partner was involved in a bike accident and he's the breadwinner, you know, he was fly in, fly out, and now he's laid up in a hospital bed with a head brace on and can't work, and probably won't be working for the next 12 months or more. And so they found themselves in a situation where they're like, well, what the hell do we do now? And I think the biggest thing for anyone is knowing that you're not alone in that. You know, you're not the only one that's felt guilty. You're not the only one that's felt ashamed. You're not the only one that's felt like the biggest freaking loser in the world because you don't have your money shit together. You're not the only one that can't stick to a budget and save your life.
Yeah.
And it's okay, because that's where you are right now, but that doesn't have to be where you are in 12 months from now, or 5 years from now, or in 10 years from now. Your life might look completely different in as little as a month.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. It's feelings are temporary and they can change, and while the money struggles are stressful and make you feel really crappy, it's still only a temporary situation. Everything is temporary at the end of the day, isn't it? So and like when you're in that moment, it feels like it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you, and like, you know, in your head you're going over every little thing, and you're basically blowing, you know, a mountain, like a molehill into a mountain, and you're turning it into this giant thing that's hanging over your head, and you're making it out to be so big, and then you turn around and face it and you're kind of like, what was the big deal? Like, I was turning it into this giant problem, and it really wasn't one. I think it's actually always easier. It's never easy to overcome this stuff, but it's always easier than we think it will be the whole time that we are thinking about doing that and avoiding it. It's always easier to actually just tackle it, because at least then you're moving forward, aren't you?
Yeah. And that's the thing. The more that you avoid it, the more you're keeping yourself stuck.
Yeah.
The more that you refuse to face it, the more that you're repeating that pattern, because what you have been doing that whole time while you were living in that pattern is refusing to face it.
Yeah.
So the more you keep going, the more it's just going to repeat itself. And the more you decide, well, that's it, like, I'm just going to face it, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to face it head on, and I know it's going to hurt and I'm going to hate it and I don't want to do it. The more that you do that, the more that you realize, okay, well, like, that wasn't such a big deal. Yeah, it hurt, but now I've got a plan.
Yeah.
Or now I feel more in control. And I think that's what I always wanted when I was going through the worst of my money struggles. I wanted to feel in control. I felt like I needed my whole life. You know, I couldn't go out because I didn't have the money, and I couldn't go on a holiday because I didn't have the money, and I couldn't pay the bills because I didn't have the money, and the money was never the problem.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
What was going on in my head was the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I faced that, it was like, okay, well, what do I do about it now? Well, you just start making different choices. And you kind of look at that and you go, that sounds too simple.
Yeah.
But it's actually the simple little steps every day, and just moving that little bit forward every day. And like, even if it's only a tiny little shift every day where you go, okay, well, look, I don't really need that magazine. I'm not going to read.
And it all adds up, doesn't it? Tiny shifts amount to a lot.
Yeah, well, I read this thing the other day that said if you just shift 1% every day in a year, you've changed your life 365%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually just written a blog on what would you do with an extra 130 hours with your year, in your year. And that's just by getting up 30 minutes earlier, 5 days a week, not even 7 days a week. 130 hours sounds like you could do a lot with that amount of time, you know? So yeah, there's the small incremental changes are, you know, not as hard as you think they're going to be, and they make the biggest impact over time. So
yeah, they do. And like, I'm putting together a mastermind course right now, and you know, one of the things that I thought of was, well, like, what if you actually get people's reaction to money? And I thought, well, okay, how do I do that? Because like, I've talked to people and I've, you know, asked them, you know, when you're holding money, how do you feel? And some people are like, I feel like I can't hold it. Like it's this weight in my hand and I don't know what to do with it. And other people are like, oh, yeah, it doesn't really bother me. It's like, you know, it's just a piece of paper, or it's just a piece of plastic, or it's just a piece of metal. Like, it doesn't really have any, you know, impact.
It's amazing some of the negative beliefs that people attach to money, like rich people are greedy, or rich people are evil, or money is dirty money, you know?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you put money in the palm of your hand, like if you go to your purse right now and grab every note and coin you've got and you just pile it in your hand and you sat with that, think about how you feel. Like, and not just how you feel, but how your body changes. Because some people will tense up in the shoulders and their head will droop forward and they'll like kind of slouch down in their chair, and then you can see like the shame and the guilt taking over, and you can see that they just feel like money is horrible, like it's the worst thing in the world. And you just want to say to them, you created that feeling.
And also, why would the universe give you more of that if you're saying that it's awful? Yeah.
And that's the thing, people are like, if I just had more money, that would fix everything.
Oh, it never does it? And they've proved that with lottery winners, how they're usually back to exactly where they were 2 years after they won the money. So it really doesn't change anything. It's about working on your money patterns now before you get the money, and stepping into that feeling of abundance now before you get the money. Money will catch up.
It does. And like, I sit down now, and from being someone who couldn't save to looking at my bank accounts where I've got like, I think I've got 5 different savings accounts, and they're all named, you know, with what I'm saving for. And I keep looking at that, and it's adding up and it's adding up. And I'm like, wow, this is actually really cool. Like, from being someone who never saved, like I would have change in a jar, and by the end of the week, I would need it because I'd need to go and buy bread, or I'd need to go and buy milk, or when my kids were little, I'd need like 20 extra bucks to buy nappies. Because I didn't have enough to get through until next payday. And just little changes over time have added up to the point where I'm now saving money, and it feels weird, but it feels awesome.
Yeah. Which also just breeds more abundance, doesn't it? Because you step into that higher vibe state around money where you're grateful for it. Yeah. Talk to us more about your mastermind. How can people find out about that?
Well, I'm just putting together a lot of the worksheets now, but I will be releasing it really soon.
Awesome.
Stepping up.
Cool. So how can people find out more about you and stay connected with you to find out about the mastermind?
Well, the best place to go is my Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/hollys.abundant.universe. And I update that pretty much every day. That's the best place to be. But yeah, it's coming soon, and I'm really excited about it because I want it to be like a stepping stone. So I want it to be for people who have been or are living through. Yeah. And I want it to be like just, small steps every week that add up to the point where in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year, your whole perspective has shifted and changed, and you feel really different, and you actually feel, even though you might not necessarily be making more money, but you actually feel more abundant because you've shifted into a space where you're actually using your money intentionally and being in control of it and deciding where it goes. And you are aligned then with your soul vision for abundance. Yeah. And everyone has one. We all have one that's different for everybody. Our goals, our everything, that all starts at that soul level. And if you can step slowly into that, all of a sudden you'll turn around and you'll be like, wow, this is my life now. How cool is this?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. So how about a parting piece of guidance or wisdom that you can share with the audience?
Ooh. Parting piece. Okay. You always have a choice. That's my big motto with my business, especially. You always have a choice. You can always choose a different thought. You can always choose a different direction. You can always choose a different feeling. And it can start now, and it can just grow over time. But you always got a choice.
Awesome. I love that. Cool. Thank you so much for being a guest on episode 3 of the From Surviving to Thriving video interview series. It's been great to have you on, and you've shared some really amazing gold nuggets, I think, for the audience today. Pretty much most people in this lifetime are going through money struggles at the moment. So I'm sure this will touch a lot of people. And I expect that Holly's Abundant Universe will be getting a few hits as well. So I'll share that link in the notes as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. I love to talk about what I do.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. And thank you everyone for watching, and I'll catch you on episode 4. Thank you so much for joining me today for my video interview series From Surviving to Thriving, stories of real people overcoming real adversity. If you're currently going through a situation that you're struggling to cope with right now, some kind of change or trauma in your life, maybe that's happened in your past and you're struggling to deal with, then I'm here for you, either via one-on-one coaching or through my online coaching program, From Surviving to Thriving, which I put together based on my own experiences of overcoming adversity and with the clients that I have worked with, helping them through their tough times. This is a combination of tools, quick and easy tools that will help you to transform your life, help you shift out of that negative mindset and into neutralizing those negative emotions so that you can cope with what's going on and create a better life for yourself. Head on over to my website, coachcarly.com, where you'll find all the information you'll need. And if you want to get in touch, feel free to do so via the contact page on my website. I look forward to hearing from you soon.